For all of the moneymakers I have searched Oldskool Runescape for, sometimes the best ones are the ones that come to you. My friend Chris told me about a guy that was overpaying for an item in the Bulks Discord. His goal was to be the first to ever get 100,000 of it in the game. This Discord, as well as RuneScape collectors, is for people who collect large amounts of specific items and they normally pay a lot more than the GE price, or for people who are looking to buy a lot of items to train with. Meaning you can leave an offer in the GE to buy an item at the market price, then after a while come here and sell it for a profit. But whilst I've seen attack potions go for 20 GP each, almost 3 times the GE price, and a few other similar things, the biggest profits tend to be items that you can't buy off the GE. You either make or are more difficult to obtain than a regular item, and you have to trade outside of the GE because the GE doesn't list it. Things such as half pizzas, quest items, holiday events, and burnt food. And some of the collections in here are absolutely crazy. So I did a video a while back on burnt food, which I'll link below, and that was 2.1 million GP per hour. But what Chris told me was a guy was buying a rarely traded burnt item that you don't see that much of, burnt crunchies, and he was paying 25,000 GP every single one. That's between 2.5 and 25 times the price of most burnt food. And the best thing about this is you only need level 1 to cook or burn it. In fact, the lower your cooking level, the better. At level 1 you burn over half the crunchies, but by level 15 you only burn a third. But there are ways to lower your cooking level even if you're higher than that. So straight away I knew that this was going to be really good money. Since my cooking level is 90, I use 2 ways to lower my stats. First, by getting hit by Zogres or Skogres, you get a disease which lowers a random stat by 10, which like poison, reduces over time. I did this before making the raw crunchies, which requires gianni dough and crunchy trays that you buy on the GE fairly cheaply. That way my stats were reducing whilst I was making the raw crunchies ready to be cooked later. After I prepared 500 raw crunchies, I refreshed the disease so it went back up to 10 every time it hit. And then after I'd finished all 1,000 that I'd bought, and then I went to Trollheim Ice Path. In this area your stats are reduced by 1 every few seconds, so I stayed here until my cooking level was 1. I then refreshed my disease again at the Skogres, and I did this a lot whilst cooking the crunchies too, trying to make sure that my cooking level was as low as possible so I was burning as many as I could. Occasionally when doing this your cooking level will be reduced to 0 and you need level 1 to cook them. And since it takes quite a while to go up by 1, I always used this as a chance to refresh the disease whenever I could. The only other thing I needed was a ring of dueling to teleport to Castle Wars, and a mythical cake to cook them on the range there as it's the closest to the bank, although you can cook them on any range. Something to be aware of though is that the people in the bulk community, especially the burnt one, don't want people deliberately creating more items. If someone has 1 million of an item and someone creates another 1 million, it devalues their item. But in reality, that's just where most of the items come from. Just don't go around telling everyone if you're going to do it yourself, or do anything incredibly stupid like release a video about it. Anyway, it took me 1 hour and 25 minutes to finish all 1,000, but on a new account I think it will be even closer to 1 hour, as lowering your stats interrupt your cooking and takes a while to do. And if you're going to do tons of these, you're going to save so much time not having to keep going back to Trollheim. After cooking all of them, I burned just under half of them, and then I spoke to the guy who was only actually paying 25k each when he was going for the first 100,000. However, he did manage to negotiate himself up to 18.5k from 15k without me asking, which is still a very nice 9.1 million GP for 492 burnt crunchies, some of the best money in the game at 6.4 million GP per hour. Of course, this guy isn't going to buy crunchies at 18.5k each if lots of people make them, so I wouldn't try. But the point is you can make a lot of money in the All Bulks and RuneScape collectors discords, which not everyone knows about, just by keeping an eye on little deals and little things that happen. If someone has the money and they really want an item, they'll just come in and offer a lot more than it should be, and it can be some of the best money in the game. And the beauty of them all is most of them don't have any requirements and just take a little bit of your time to do, or even better, just by putting a few offers in the GE. And just a big shout out to Chris, whose channel I will link below. He has tons of unique money makers that you just don't see anywhere else.
Come on, get that money.